Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the WWE Raw Review Show on the Ringside Report Network. It's Monday, January 10th. Tonight on the show, Doudrop versus Becky Lynch at the Royal Rumble. American Alpha beat RK Bro and are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. And Big E is headed towards the Rumble match. Indeed. Hello. Hey, everybody. It's me, Dave, your friend, here talking about wrestling with you on a Monday night. By myself, again. My brother's usually here on a Monday night with me. Johnny can't be here on Monday nights with me. Johnny's with me on Wednesdays. Fred and AJ are with me on Thursdays. Johnny's with me on Fridays. And usually my brother was with me here on Mondays, hanging out with me every Monday night watching Raw. But he can't be here tonight because there's a curfew in the province of Quebec, so he would have had to have left before 10 p.m. Otherwise, he could be fined $6,000, which the show can't afford. So I'm here solo with you, and that's where you come in. Pay for my brother's curfew taxes, and maybe we can get him back. Curfew sucks. Shout out to Lauren, Silent by Deadly, Franco316, all in the chat. Don't forget to become a member, support the Ringside Report Network, and talk to me tonight, because I'm rolling solo. Give me your thoughts on Raw. Did you see Raw? Was I the only one watching? I couldn't have been the only one watching. I see my man Franco says there was no Habs. So that's something. If there's no hockey, you must be watching wrestling, unless there was something else on that I'm unaware of. My life is mostly wrestling. I don't really know what else is going on other than professional wrestling. I watched Raw tonight. Thank you, Doug Hepburn. Re-up the membership. Remain members. Be a member. Stay a member. And we'll be friends forever. Forever! Forever!
Thank you.
Oh, Terry Funk. All right. For those of you that got that, Jason Pete, I'm seeing all the members popping up. I like it. Look at all the members. Thank you to the members. Raw tonight was, again, not a bad show. Last week was a decent episode of Raw. Tonight was not bad. Rolled along pretty well. Had some highs, had some lows. But overall, eventful. Overall, in most every segment, something happened, something progressed, which is what you're looking for on an episode of Raw. You're looking for that storyline progression. You're not looking for a 5-star classic. You're not looking for a top-level wrestling match each and every week. You're not expected to get, an hour draw for the world title every week on TV. That's just not going to happen. That's not what you're expecting on Raw. You want the show, you want the stories to move along so that you can head towards those big 5-star matches at the pay-per-views. You would hope. So Raw, I think, attained its objective tonight. A solid episode of Raw that kept me entertained throughout. I mean, there were some bad moments. Alexa Bliss had a promo with a psychiatrist. That was, pretty awful. But overall, things happened on Raw, which is what I'm looking for. We had new tag team champions, the Alpha Academy, and the show started off with probably the biggest star in professional wrestling, Brock Lesnar, the WWE champion. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman show up. They're in the ring. Heyman does the intro for Brock. Brock's very excited. He's happy, Brock. He talks a little bit. MVP and Bobby Lashley come out right away. MVP introduces Bobby kind of Heyman style. Bobby tells Brock, it's an honor to share the ring with you finally, but Brock, you've been ducking me for 20 years. And Brock says, I don't know who you are. I didn't know who you were until I saw you backstage at day one. It's not my fault that I've been winning championships in this ring and others, It's not my fault that you couldn't achieve the heights that I achieved. It's not my fault, what Brock is really saying. It's not my fault I went to the UFC and became a big star. I was a WWE champion way before you were. It's not my fault that you were in Bellator and Strikeforce and you never really hit it big, and you were in Impact Wrestling and you were a big star there, but you never been a big star in the WWE, Bobby. Not like Brock. And it isn't Brock's fault. It's not Brock's fault. And Brock cut a pretty good promo there on Bobby Lashley. Says Bobby Lashley is a Brock Lesnar wannabe, and he leaves. So Bobby Lashley telling Brock, you've been ducking me, and I'm going to beat you at the Rumble, and you've been scared of me all these years. And Bobby Lashley has been talking about Brock Lesnar for years. Feels like 10 years. And the question's always going to be asked, right? When Bobby Lashley was fighting in his fighting career, what would happen with you and Brock Lesnar? Because Brock Lesnar was the other famous pro wrestler in MMA at the time. So the questions were always asked. And there's probably a professional rivalry. I wonder if Bobby Lashley thinks he could beat Brock in a fight. Bobby Lashley is a tough guy, is a legitimate athlete, but he's not Brock Lesnar. Brock would beat him in an MMA fight, whether today or at the peak of their career, Brock would have won hands down. But they're going to battle at the Royal Rumble. And I thought the promo was solid from Brock and solid from Bobby. Before the promo, though, Cedric and Shelton Benjamin were backstage with Bobby and MVP all ready to go out with them. And Bobby's like, no, the Hurt Business is no more. I'm done with you guys. No more Hurt Business. I don't want you guys around anymore. So after Brock had told Bobby that he's a Brock Lesnar wannabe and left the ring with Paul Heyman, Shelton and Cedric, they hit the ring. They attack Bobby Lashley. And Bobby turns it around on them pretty quickly and just beats them up. And that was it. That's all you saw from Brock. That's all you saw from Bobby. That's all you saw from Shelton and Cedric tonight. That was it. The Shelton and Cedric allegiance with Bobby and MVP has been strange because they did a full and proper breakup months ago. Then they had Shelton and Cedric go off on their own. Shelton and Cedric broke up and had a mini feud on TV. Then neither man was really seen. They brought them back as a team, and they were back up to Bobby Lashley again, and it was never explained why they were back with him. It was just like, yeah, Bobby dumped them a while ago. They remained a team, then broke up, then disappeared. Then when they come back, they're a team again, and they're with Bobby. But tonight, Bobby's like, no more. I'm tired of you guys. What did they do? I don't understand the Hurt Business. Bobby's like, didn't I tell you guys the Hurt Business was over? It's like, yeah, it was 6 months ago, man. But we're back now. Didn't you get the memo? And MVP's like laughing in the background the whole time. He's like, get out of here, guys. What is the Hurt Business? Why were Shelton and Cedric back with them? And why did Bobby fire them tonight? Anyways, I guess he fired them because he could beat them up by himself. That was really done so that Bobby Lashley could beat somebody up on TV and look impressive. Because next to Brock, he doesn't look that impressive. That's kind of the problem with this, right? Like, next to Brock, he doesn't look that big or strong or intimidating because Brock is bigger and stronger and more intimidating. I don't see Brock losing to him at the Royal Rumble. I think Brock retains. Roman Reigns, on the other hand, I could see losing. Franco says, let's have a UFC rules match. Yeah, like I said, that wouldn't work well for Bobby. Bobby would lose that fight. I'd bet all the money on it. All the money. Brock would 100% win that fight 10 times out of 10. I cannot stress that enough. There are levels to the game, Brock Lesnar, yes, got beat in the UFC. Got beat by Alistair Overeem and Cain Velasquez. Bobby Lashley got beat in Strikeforce by Chad Griggs. Chad Griggs is no Cain Velasquez. No disrespect to Chad Griggs, but even Chad Griggs would admit he's no Alistair Overeem or Cain Velasquez. I think Chad Griggs would probably admit, yeah, peak of my career, Cain and Overeem probably destroy me. If he's being honest with himself. So, Bobby Lashley was a good fighter. He was a good fighter in Strikeforce and Bellator. He had a decent run. He'd probably beat Jake Hager in a fight. I give him that. Bobby versus Jake today, Bellator, Bobby, for sure. What I've seen from Jake, what I've seen from Bobby, Bobby would beat up Jack Swagger. But Brock Lesnar, forget about it. No chance in hell. So, two guys I'd like to see. You know who has a better chance against Brock Lesnar? I think maybe Otis. He's younger. Guy can move. Thick. So thick. How's Brock going to get his arms around him for a suplex? Too thick. That Alpha Academy. If you don't like Alpha Academy, you don't like the kind of wrestling that I like. That's really what it boils down to. If you don't like Alpha Academy, we don't agree on what professional wrestling should be. Because to me, Alpha Academy embodies what I want to see in professional wrestling. Legit amateur wrestlers who have dedicated their lives to professional wrestling, who look the part, act the part, and can wrestle their asses off. And, I mean, in the case of Otis, unbelievable talent. This guy, to me, is a world championship caliber wrestler. And I know a lot of people don't see those guys that way. And it baffles me. Because I like real wrestlers in pro wrestling. Brock Lesnar is a great pro wrestler. The fact that he's showing up on every TV show right now is great for the WWE. It's amazing. My only problem with Brock was, A, the act was getting stale of him just kind of standing around and Heyman going on and on about how he's the beast and how no one can beat him. Like, that kind of got stale. And also, he never showed up. He was not around very often. So, as a world champion or as a guy that your storylines were kind of depending on, he wasn't that great as a character because he wasn't there. But now, he's around all the time, makes the shows way better because he's just there. He's on them. They opened the show tonight with Brock Lesnar. It's fantastic. You can't argue with that. Ryan Katz says, who would win, Lashley versus Riddle UFC fight style? Yeah, that's an easy one too, Lashley. Lashley is a heavyweight. Riddle fought at 170 pounds. Like, that's not even really fair. I think Lashley would definitely win. He would pick Riddle up and throw him down and smash him up and beat him up, and Riddle would probably not be able to get out from underneath Bobby Lashley. Lashley is a strong wrestler. You know, Lashley, he's got good takedowns. He was able to use those takedowns and smother guys and ground and pound, and he's got powerful strikes, but he's just not very technical with his strikes, and he would gas out really after about 5 minutes. After the first round, Bobby Lashley just wasn't the same. He'd be able to survive. Sometimes he'd have a decent second round and be able to eke out a decision win, but Bobby would struggle because Bobby would gas, because Bobby's super muscle-bound, and, you know, he needs oxygen for those muscles, and it wouldn't always work. You see a lot of those super jacked guys get gassed real quick in MMA because you don't really want to be that jacked for pro fighting. It doesn't really work. Like being cut, but like inflated like Bobby is, it didn't really work for him. The strength and power was there, but then once that kind of goes away, if you haven't put your opponent away, things could get a little rough. But because Riddle's so much smaller than Bobby, I think Bobby would probably win that one pretty easily. So don't even ask me about Brock. Alpha Academy, I think, are fantastic wrestlers. They beat RK Bro tonight. I love these guys. Chad Gable went to the Olympics for wrestling. Otis was very close on the bubble. The guy is a top-level amateur wrestler. These guys are real athletes. And WWE did the right thing. They had Otis pick up Randy Orton in a World's Strongest Slam, slam him in the middle of the ring, and pin him for a 3 count. Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Randy gets it. Randy's been in the wrestling business for a long time. He knows guys like Otis don't come around very often. Guys that can move like a cat. Probably about 300 pounds. Look at that guy. He's a monster. Randy's willing to do the job for him. Randy gets it. Thank you, Randy Orton. Thank you, Randy, for losing to Otis tonight. Not Riddle. Randy takes the pinfall. Randy could have said, nah, let's let Riddle do it. It'll work better for the story, whatever. He takes the fall. Riddle and Randy were in Gorilla before the match. Randy told Riddle that they lost last week to Alpha Academy because Riddle didn't tag in Randy. So Randy wrote on Riddle's hands, tag in Randy, so that he would be reminded. And, of course, that backfired because Randy was the one who took the fall. So, of course, Riddle and Randy will enter some sort of feud, right? I predict Riddle versus Randy at WrestleMania. Not something I need to see, but, that's where our RK Bro was always headed, and that's where it's going to go at WrestleMania. I would say it'll be Riddle versus Randy at WrestleMania. RK Bro loses the tag team titles tonight. I think this was their beginning of that, and I think they probably eliminate each other, or one of them eliminates the other in the Royal Rumble, and it kind of accelerates their feud that way. That's how I see it playing out. They'll probably be friendly for the next couple of weeks until the Rumble match, and then, every man for himself. Maybe Riddle eliminates Randy. Maybe Randy comes back, RKO's Riddle, gets him eliminated from the Rumble. But I think it'll be Riddle-Randy at WrestleMania. Jeez. Alpha Academy, though, I think are great. I'm a big fan of Gable and Otis. As I've said time and time again, I love these guys. They're the new Raw Tag Team Champions. So Riddle and Randy, RK Bro, have had those belts for a long time. They dropped them tonight on Raw. Big moment. Big moment. Matthew Henley says, have you ever been to WrestleMania live in person? I have not. I've been to a couple Survivor Series, a couple Money in the Banks, Breaking Point, Road Rules, some sort of WWE network special event in Toronto. I forget what it was called. Dean Ambrose wrestled Triple H on it. It was pretty good. Brock Lesnar was on it too. I don't know what that was. I don't remember what that show was called, but it was like a pay-per-view type thing. I've been to a few pay-per-views. I was at the Screwjob, of course, at the Survivor Series in '97 in Montreal. But I've not been to a WrestleMania yet. One day. What's up, Angelo? What else happened on the show tonight? Quick match here. Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, and Apollo Crews beat the Street Profits and Damian Priest. Ziggler hitting a finisher on Dawkins for the win. Dolph getting a lot of wins lately. Didn't beat Damian Priest for the belt, but I don't know. Maybe he will. It's a little bit of a rebuild for Dolph, and I don't hate it. I'm not hating it. Yes, Lauren, I did say something nice about Randy Orton. He did the job for the Alpha Academy. You laid down for Otis, and I'm going to give you a pat on the back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Randy. I'm sure Johnny North is watching right now, and he's very happy that I'm saying nice things about Randy. I'm happy when Randy loses, John. Okay, how about that? Randy lost to my boy Otis. God, I love Otis. I think he's fantastic. He could do everything. He could be a babyface. He could do comedy. He could be a heel. He could be serious. He's big. He's strong. He could do power moves. It's fantastic. Agile. Intimidating. Legit. He's got it all. He's got it all. He could do a promo. But, of course, Seth Rollins is the guy WWE is banking on. He cut a promo tonight in the ring, talked about being excited for the Royal Rumble because he's going to become the new Universal Champion by beating Roman Reigns. Seth saying 3 things in life are unavoidable: death, taxes, and Seth Rollins beats Roman Reigns every time. Does he? Big E comes out and says he wants Seth to win the title because he's going to beat him after he wins the Royal Rumble. Now, Big E has said that he is now in the Royal Rumble match. Seth tells E that he doesn't stand a chance, and Big E says, oh yeah, well, how about we have a match tonight and you prove that? And Seth at first doesn't want to do the match, but then decides that he does want to do the match. It's not really clear why. Seth also started talking about why he got the title match against Roman Reigns. Like, it's not because I have an advocate. It's because, I did what I had to do. It wasn't really clear why Seth has been granted a Universal title shot at the SmackDown champion when he's a Raw guy who just lost at day 1 in the 5-way with Brock Lesnar and all the other dudes. Right? Why did Seth get the title shot? Like, I get it. He's Seth Rollins, and it makes sense because if you watch the show, he's a big star. But in the story, it's not really explained. Like, WWE kind of glossed over that. They're like, yeah. Is there a reason why Seth got the title shot? Anyways, Seth freaking Rollins then beat Big E after a curb stomp, pinned him. Just beat Big E. Guy was WWE champion. And Seth just beat him. Easily. On Raw. Pinned him clean in the middle of the ring. Now, you could take this one of 2 ways. You could say, okay, well, Big E lost to Seth, but that's just because Seth is going to win the Universal title from Roman Reigns at the Rumble. And Big E is going to win the Rumble, and then they'll do the rematch at WrestleMania, and that's when Big E will get his revenge, and he'll beat Seth when it counts at WrestleMania for the title. Maybe. Or they're just going to bury Big E because that's it. They made him champion, he lost, and now back down the card. Don't know. Gonna have to wait and see how they book Big E in the next few weeks. 2 more episodes of Raw before the Rumble. It's on the 29th of the month. I don't know where they're going with Big E. I like him a lot. I'm disappointed that they took the belt off of him so unceremoniously, and since then, he's just been losing matches. He lost a bunch of matches as champion, and now since he lost the belt, he lost that 4-way last week. Was it a 4-way? Yeah, right, with Bobby and Kevin. And, yeah, Seth, right? Big E lost the 4-way, and Bobby won, so Bobby gets a shot at Brock, right? And then tonight, Big E just loses to Seth. So Big E just keeps losing. Also, Big E took the pin from Brock at day 1. Don't forget about that. Big E's just on a massive losing streak. It's not the way to make a guy unless he wins the Rumble, which is a possibility. If they want to repair the good name of Big E, they have him win the Rumble, take on Seth, and that makes sense as a, match at WrestleMania. It won't be one of the bigger matches, but you have Big E beat Seth. It's a nice feel-good moment for WrestleMania. I could see Seth somehow taking the title from Roman Reigns at the Rumble. Because with Brock Lesnar as WWE Champion right now, with Roman Reigns as Universal Champion, they have to wrestle. It seems clear that the destination for the Brock-Roman match would be WrestleMania. With Roman as one champion, Brock as the other, it's very difficult for the WWE to book them in a match one-on-one when the Royal Rumble winner gets a title match at WrestleMania. So either you have Brock or Roman enter the Rumble as champion and win it and then, challenge the other champion, which you could do. Like Brock could enter the Rumble at 28 as WWE champion, win, and then say, okay, now I'm challenging Roman Reigns and we're going to unify the belts at WrestleMania. They could go in that direction too. There's a lot of ways they could play this one out. But then you take away a title match for WrestleMania, and I don't know if the WWE really wants to unify those belts at Mania. So I'm operating under the premise that the WWE does not want to unify the belts at Mania, and that they want to have one Universal title match and one WWE title match at WrestleMania, especially if you're doing 2 nights. So in order for that to happen, I think one of these guys, Roman or Brock, has to drop a title at the Rumble. Brock just won the title. I don't see him dropping it to Bobby right now. Roman's been Universal Champion for a while. I don't think a lot of people would be expecting Roman to drop it right now to Seth. Seth kind of coming out of nowhere. But there have been a lot of reports that Seth was supposed to win the WWE Championship at day 1, but then when Roman dropped out due to COVID and Brock came in and won the title, plans changed. But a way to right that ship and get Seth with a main title heading into Mania would be to have Seth win the Universal title from Roman Reigns at the Rumble. And then maybe you do Seth Big E at Mania, or maybe you do Seth and, Kevin Owens at Mania, or whatever. I don't know. Depends what the WWE has planned. Maybe they do Seth and Edge again at Mania for the title. They could go in many different directions. But Big E just losing to Seth tonight is either, oh, that's bad for Big E, or, okay, this is the precursor to, what they're going to do down the road. Like Seth will say, I already beat you and whatever. You're not a threat to me. And Big E could be the underdog, and then he wins, and it's a nice story. Possibly. Matthew Henley says there's 2 nights. The winner of Rumble versus Brock for title night 1, and winner night 2 faces Reigns. Winner takes all. Yeah, they could do that too. Matthew bringing up a good point with the 2 nights. They could also do, Brock Roman for the undisputed title night 1 of WrestleMania in the main event, and the winner of that match faces the winner of the Royal Rumble in the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania. That would also make sense. They could do that too. Kind of a New Japan Pro Wrestling thing, where they had Okada on night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom wrestle Shingo Takagi for the IWGP title. Okada won, and then on night 2, he faced off against Will Ospreay. Like, Will Ospreay on night 2 is facing off against either Okada or Shingo. Okada won, faced Ospreay, beat Ospreay, and then, Like, Roman could wrestle Brock on night 1 of Mania, beat Brock, be undisputed champion, go on to face whoever, winner of the Rumble, say Big E or Xavier Woods, or it doesn't matter. Beat that guy, and then Roman goes on. And then The Rock could show up at the end of, Roman's win and kind of stare at Roman, and then you set up the next year's WrestleMania with The Rock. Also an idea. That's the thing with pro wrestling. It's really up to the whims of a mad 70-something-year-old billionaire. So You can't really predict this stuff. You can just throw out ideas and see what they do as it comes. Sometimes my ideas are better than what they actually do. I say sometimes, I say most of the time, really. Because a lot of the things they do, kind of weird. But tonight was actually pretty decent. Rhea Ripley and Nikki ASH interviewed in the ring. This took too long. This was odd. This segment encapsulated this whole team of Nikki and Rhea. You knew it was going to lead to Rhea and Nikki breaking up eventually. It just took forever. And this promo is the same thing. It's leading towards them breaking up. You know that's why they're out there. It just took forever to get to the point. I think they went over their time. I can't imagine the WWE said, go out there and fill, 8 minutes or whatever it was. They were given too much time, or it was just bad and it felt like it took a long time. I didn't have a stopwatch next to me. I don't know, but it was bad. Nikki wanted to stay together as a tag team and chase the tag titles, and Rhea thought it was better if they went their separate ways. And Nikki took offense to that and said, hey, you think you're better than me because I'm the one who got pinned in the rematch last week? You think you're just a better wrestler? Sometimes, there's a better wrestler who carries the other partner, and maybe that was me in this case. And Rhea's like, what? And Rhea's like, look, I never thought I was a better wrestler than you. And Nikki's like, I'm the better wrestler. And then Rhea goes to leave, and Nikki says, are you just going to walk away from me like that? And then Rhea goes, Nikki, you're making me feel uncomfortable. So it's best if we say goodbye. Huh? What kind of line for that is a wrestler to say? Nikki, you're making me feel uncomfortable. Yeah, if she's making you feel uncomfortable, you're both wrestlers. You're in the ring. Just kick her in the face at that point. You're making me feel uncomfortable. At that point, I was uncomfortable from watching this thing. I was like, this is dragging, right? Why is this still on? And then Nikki's like, I'm not going to shake your hand unless you look me in the eye and tell me that you believe in me. And then Rhea's like, look, I think we should end it here. Let's just be friends. Were they dating? And Nikki's like, do you mean it? Can we still be friends? And then they hug for a while. And then eventually Nikki attacks Rhea. Like, finally. She attacks her a bit. And then she leaves the ring, and that was it. It took forever. Not great. Also, who cares? And this is not going to be good for Nikki. Nikki's going to get jobbed out.
Super chat.
Nikki is going to get jobbed out big time by Rhea Ripley. Rhea is going to beat her in this feud. Nikki will never win, and then Nikki may go after the 24/7 title if she's lucky. But this could be the end of Nikki ASH as a character on Raw. She's going down to the jobber level. I can feel it. It's too bad because she's a hell of a wrestler in the ring, but the character just never worked out. And if they're breaking her and Rhea up, I think Rhea beats her several times, or maybe just once, and then they disappear Nikki for a bit. And who knows? Harold Schneider dropping a super chat. It's best that I say hi. Yeah, it is good. Thank you, Harold. Fueling the beast with the super chat. Super chat leader right now. Keeping me alive with this stuff. It's been a long day, guys. It's been a long day. Reginald and Dana Brooke backstage. We went from the Rhea Ripley thing to this Reginald and Dana Brooke thing. I was like, oh, boy. This is where it kind of dragged. Reggie gives Dana a Philly cheesesteak because they're in Philadelphia. I've had a Philly cheesesteak. I've been to Geno's. I think it was Geno's. I don't think it was Pat's. They're right across the street from each other. I think it was Geno's I went to. I like Philadelphia. I think it's a really nice city. But a Philly cheesesteak is just like a steak sandwich. It's nothing that special. It's like a steak sub you'd get here. It's not a big deal. Like, it's all right. It's pretty good. I'm not saying it's bad. I like the Geno's cheesesteak. I'd take one right now. It's delicious. But it's not anything that I hadn't had before. It's not like you have to go to Philly to have one. Like, if you order a steak and cheese sub in Montreal, you pretty much, you order a Philly cheesesteak in Montreal, you pretty much get what you get in Philly. It's not like that. It's, a little greasier. The bread's a little greasier in Philly, I guess, but I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. Like, Philadelphia is always talking about the cheesesteak. Everybody talks about the cheesesteak. So I went to Philly. I had a cheesesteak after a Money in the Bank. And it was good. I liked it, but I've had better sub sandwiches. I've had better subs, I'm saying. I've had pizza in Chicago. I've had pizza in New York. Both delicious. Both unique to the city. A Philly cheesesteak didn't feel that unique. I was like, oh yeah, like you taste Chicago deep dish pizza, you're like, I haven't ever had this before. You taste like a nice New York pizza, you're like, this is unique. This is nice. You taste Philly cheesesteak, you're like, I've had this before, I think. It's pretty good. I like it, but it's not like a one-of-a-kind thing. Like, they make it out to be this unique thing. Anyways, I like Philadelphia a lot. I think it's a great city. But they have a statue of Rocky Balboa, and he's not a real athlete. He's not a real person. It's Sylvester Stallone, so that's a little weird. Other than that, cool city. Cool city. Anyways, Reggie is given a cheesesteak to Dana Brooke, and he says, I know that smell. The 24/7 title is in danger, so they have to leave where they are. Which, what? R-Truth shows up out of nowhere. Of course, Truth is there. Maybe Truth wears cologne, and Reggie knows, when Truth is around. I don't know. Truth shows up. He's, like, hidden, and then Tozawa comes out of a garbage can, of course. And then they throw the cheesesteak, and it hits Tamina, and she's mad. And then she tosses Tozawa in the garbage can. And then Reginald runs into Omos backstage, and Omos picks up Reggie and then says, hey, watch what I'm going to do tonight, and then you'll see what I do next week. So I guess it'll be Omos versus Reggie next week. And then Omos beat this jobber guy in a squash. I don't understand. Omos beats AJ Styles last week, and now he's being, like, rebooted. He beat AJ Styles, and now he's beating a jobber, and next week he's ranking up to Reginald. It's like beating, like, the boss of the game and then starting off at level 1. Like, imagine starting a video game, and you're like, all right, beat the boss, the main boss. He's really tough. And then you're going to beat some really easy shit after that, and then you'll work your way up to maybe another mini-boss. I don't know. That's not how video games work. Why did Omos beat AJ Styles last week, and now he's graduating to a jobber, and then he graduates to Reginald? Shouldn't have been the other way around, like jobber, Reginald, AJ? But they broke up the tag team, and now AJ is back to being babyface AJ, and Omos is, like, being given the Braun Strowman, like, monster push now, where he beats jobbers and low-level talent until some babyface decides to go up against him. Maybe AJ Styles again? I don't know. But the booking of Omos seems backwards. Franco says the Cheese Whiz is not the same. Yeah, I guess the Cheese Whiz is unique to the Philadelphia. All right, I'll give you that. I don't know. I don't think I got it with the Cheese Whiz because I don't want Cheese Whiz on a... I think I just got it with regular cheese, not the Cheese Whiz. I'm not a Cheese Whiz guy. Maybe that's why. Maybe I didn't do it right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Philly cheesesteaks. I take it back. Edge hosts The Cutting Edge with his wife, Beth Phoenix. It's an in-ring interview segment. Edge talking about Beth being so tough. As tough as the 1970s Philadelphia Flyers hockey team, which the crowd barely reacted to. You saw some old guys that were there kind of clapping, but most of the crowd was like, what? Edge is trying to make references to Philadelphia that he relates to because he's a Canadian and he's old. So hockey. But like 1970s hockey teams, Edge, come on, man. The crowd did not know who you were talking about. I didn't either. Like, I get it. You're trying to appeal to Philadelphia, but The Miz came out and made some sort of sports reference that the crowd popped to. They seemed to react. He said, like, I'm like this guy. I don't even know what the guy's name was. You guys know sports. You could tell me. He was like, Miz came out after, and he was like, oh, I'm like this guy. I wouldn't get $30 million to stay in Philadelphia. I would leave too. And the crowd reacted to that. I didn't know who he was talking about, but the 1970s hockey team, like Edge, was kind of off the mark with that. It didn't really work. And then a Beth Phoenix video package played to remind us who Beth Phoenix is. And Edge was talking about how great Beth is. And Beth says Edge is trying to butter her up for later on. And flattery will get him everywhere. Beth Phoenix making some innuendos about her and Edge having sex later on tonight, which I found disgusting. I don't know. There's something gross about that. It's kind of like hearing your parents talk about it. It's like, get out of here. No one wants to hear about that. Does anybody want to hear Beth Phoenix talking about fucking Edge? It seems a little gross, doesn't it? They're kind of older. It's like, all right, guys. All right, take it easy. Like Beth and Edge. I don't know. There's something about an old married couple flirting on TV that's just like, I don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. It's not cute. It's weird. It just makes you feel weird. Maybe that's me. Do you guys like to hear Beth Phoenix talk about having sex with Edge, making innuendos about that on TV? Does that add anything to your wrestling viewing pleasure? Because to me, it was a little weird. I was like, okay. I don't know. All right, Beth. Having sex with Edge. All hairy. Edge, I mean, you know. I don't want to hear about that. Now I'm picturing it. You know, it's gross. Come on. Edge talking about Beth Phoenix's thighs. Like, it's like, oh, she could crack walnuts with those thighs. I was like, take it easy. And then Miz and Maurice showed up. And Miz does the whole, what kind of man hides behind his wife thing, which he did last week, and it was, like, bad last week. And he does it again this week, and it was just awful. And then Miz is like, oh, you had a video package for Beth Phoenix. Well, it just so happens that I have a video package prepared for my wife, Maurice. I'm like, this is fake as hell, isn't it? How would Miz have that prepared? He sees a Beth Phoenix video package airing on the show, and he's like, let me quickly get some guys to edit one together for Maurice and narrate it and everything. It's impossible. It's just a coincidence they both had video packages prepared to talk about their wives and kind of remind you who they are because they haven't wrestled in 15 years and you have to care about them for the Royal Rumble. They both had video package ready for their wives. And then Miz talks about how great Maurice is, and then Edge talks about how strong Beth is, and Maurice doesn't say anything. Maurice was wearing quite a top tonight. I mean, it was just a bombardment of what was going on there. Beth wonders why Maurice was being so quiet. Miz tells Maurice to tell Beth what she's going to do to her. Miz is like, come on, Maurice, you tell Beth that you're going to do this and that, and you're going to blah, blah, blah. And then as Miz is going on, Maurice is behind him, and then she just walks backstage. She left. She had enough. She's scared of Beth Phoenix. She doesn't want to say bad things to Beth Phoenix, because now that Beth Phoenix has shown up, she's like, uh-oh. I remember what Beth Phoenix can do. She's going to kick my ass. This is not good. And Miz is, I guess, not hearing any of it and trying to tell Maurice to fight back or whatever. So Maurice just walked away from Miz. Maurice seems like not into Miz. Like kind of annoyed with Miz and his antics. Right? She's kind of making faces when he's talking like, I don't know. I don't know what Maurice was trying to say tonight. AJ Styles wrestled Austin Theory and beat him by disqualification when Grayson Waller attacked AJ Styles. And you might be asking, Dave, who's Grayson Waller? I don't know. I'm not really sure. He's a guy from NXT. I think he's Australian or possibly from New Zealand. The accent is close enough that I have to hear him talk more to figure it out. And even then, maybe I wouldn't figure it out. I don't know. Maybe he's English. Who knows? We all get those accents confused sometimes. Anyhow. No, I think he's Australian. Right, but sometimes you hear somebody and you think they're British and it turns out they're Australian. And you're like, what the hell's going on there? Maybe that's just me. Grayson Waller's an Australian guy who wrestles in NXT, and AJ Styles is going to wrestle him in NXT tomorrow night, so this was all done to hype that. And AJ was on his way to beating Austin Theory with the phenomenal forearm, and then Grayson attacked, which caused the disqualification. And AJ fought Waller back, and he fought him off, and Grayson went backstage, did a quick interview to hype his match for tomorrow night with AJ Styles. But AJ was fully a babyface here. He's turned babyface. Broke up with Omos, turned AJ babyface. Maybe Seth wins the title and AJ Styles wins the Rumble and AJ Styles faces Seth at WrestleMania? Because if you ask me, who should be champion on Raw, most days I'd tell you it should be AJ Styles. If you ask me who the best wrestler in the WWE is, it's pretty much AJ Styles. Back when Bryan Danielson was still there, I'd say AJ would have had some competition. But right now, who's the number one professional wrestler, total package? He's got everything going for him. It's the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. Still the man. Still the man. Solid match with Austin Theory tonight. So, you want to make AJ the world champion? You want to give AJ the Rumble? Be my guest. I would love that. A little AJ Styles reboot. Little babyface push for AJ Styles. You want to do something with AJ Styles? Yes. I'm down with that. It's the phenomenal one. They said it tonight. First ballot Hall of Famer. Slam dunk. Legend. Living legend of professional wrestling. Retired The Undertaker. It's too bad he didn't beat him, because would have been a good brag for AJ Styles right now, Would have been a good brag. I retired The Undertaker. Can't say that. Can always have that kind of feather in his cap professionally that he had Taker's last match with him, but in a promo, But, again, you look at the roster top to bottom, who's better than AJ Styles? Brock's pretty cool. I like Brock, but, AJ's more consistent as far as appearances. For the most part. I mean, Brock over the past few weeks has been there, but AJ should be Grayson Waller on NXT, but who knows? If AJ loses to Grayson Waller on NXT, do not expect him to win the Royal Rumble, right? If he's going to NXT and losing to this guy, Grayson, I don't think so. Any chance Braun Breaker wins the Royal Rumble? You guys like Braun Breaker? New NXT champion. I think he's tremendous. I'm a big fan. I think he's going to do big things in pro wrestling. Rick Steiner's son? Tremendous. I'll tell you what wasn't tremendous. Alexa Bliss in a psychiatrist's office. She's still dressed like the Fiend. The doctor shows Alexa a video of Charlotte destroying Lily the doll and asks her how she feels. Now, the video is, spliced in with, weird images to make Alexa, spooky. So it's like an iPad, but then the camera focuses in, and there's all sorts of weird extra stuff going on. So there's still like Alexa Bliss evil powers going on. Alexa looks mad when she sees the video of her doll getting destroyed by Charlotte. And then she poured a whole the doctor says, how do you feel? And Alexa's like, I feel thirsty. And then she takes an empty glass and takes a pitcher of water and then pours the water into the glass, and it overflows, and the whole pitcher and the water goes on the floor. And the doctor's like, oh, Alexa, what's going on? And then she grabs the doctor by the tie, and she's like, how do you feel, doctor? And then she starts smashing things up in the office, and she goes, ah! And the segment ended. Thankfully. It didn't take too long, but it was longer than I wanted to sit watching it. It was horrible. It was the worst thing on the show. This is how they bring back Alexa Bliss. This was crazy. This was crazy. Whose idea was this? Did you have to show her getting the medical advice? Did you have to show her in a psychiatrist's office? Could she have just come back as old Alexa Bliss? Moment of bliss, Alexa Bliss, before the Fiend stuff. Just come back as the old version of her and say, do a promo like, I was in a dark place, I got some help, I'm doing all right now, and I'm here to challenge for the Raw title or whatever. But no, instead, she's still kind of wacky, and she's still doing the gimmick, and she's in a psychiatrist's office trying to figure herself out. Did she book the psychiatrist appointment for her? Did the WWE book it for her? Who's booking this? Why would she book this for herself? And if she's still this Alexa Bliss character and she's still like the Fiend and stuff, why hasn't she been wrestling? Is the WWE not allowing her to wrestle because of her mental state? They haven't said that. Showing her on TV, they're using her mental state to exploit her for dollars on television, right? So what's the story? How come she hasn't been around? That's not been explained in any kind of way. A lot of holes in this story. But some people like this stuff. Some people must like it. Alexa Bliss in the psychiatrist's office. Okay. Becky Lynch cuts a promo in the ring. Finally, a legitimate wrestler here. Becky Lynch. Somebody who can cut a promo, can do it all. Becky goes to do commentary for the triple threat main event. It's Doudrop, Liv Morgan, and Bianca Belair. The winner gets a shot at Becky at the Royal Rumble. Match starts with everybody coming together. Doudrop, Bianca, and Liv. Becky's on commentary. So the three wrestlers come together, and they throw the worst punches at each other you've ever seen. The opening few seconds of this match were just ugly. Bianca Belair's strikes in this match were terrible. I don't know if her punches are always this bad, but Bianca specifically, her punches look like they don't make any impact. She's strong. Her punches should make more of a sound. Liv Morgan's strikes look like they land a lot more than Bianca's. Bianca's stuff, it's not in there. She can do cool moves. The 450 she did was amazing. She's very impressive. She can take impressive bumps. She can do impressive moves. But her selling and her strikes are not there. Not there, especially tonight. Liv at one point put Bianca in the rings of Saturn. Looked like Bianca was tapping out immediately. But, no. She escaped the move. It was weird, though. Looked like Bianca was tapping. Eventually, Bianca hits the KOD on Liv Morgan. and looks like she's going to win the match and go on to face Becky, but Becky jumps off commentary and stops Bianca Belair from winning, which kind of makes sense because Becky has not been able to beat Bianca without cheating. And, well, except for the first time she beat her in like 5 seconds, but after that, in real matches when Bianca was ready for her, she struggled to win, so it makes sense that Becky didn't want to face Bianca at the Rumble and stopped her from winning. Bianca chased after Becky, but Becky stopped her and tossed her over the announce table to get her out of the match momentarily, long enough for Doudrop to hit her bonsai drop on Liv Morgan for the win. So Becky, stopping Bianca from getting the win, didn't mind that Doudrop won. I guess, at that point, Becky was just kind of letting the thing play out. And if Liv Morgan had won, Becky wouldn't have minded either because Becky just beat her clean at day one. So who cares about Liv Morgan, right? But Becky not being afraid of Doudrop in any way is kind of weird. Like, why would Becky want Doudrop to win? Doudrop seems to have won a lot of matches. Doudrop's big and strong. She's new. She could be a threat. But Becky doesn't seem that threatened by Doudrop, which doesn't really start off their feud very well. Becky helps Doudrop, a fellow heel, by the way. She helps her win the match that gets her a title shot against her at the Rumble. Like, Becky helping Doudrop to get a match to face Becky doesn't make a ton of sense, and it doesn't make you feel like there's a lot of animosity between Becky and Doudrop. If there was tons of heat there, Becky wouldn't have helped her, right? So I think this is just a roadblock. Roadblock, I think, was that show in Toronto. I was trying to think of the name now that I mentioned it. Becky and Doudrop is just a stop on the road to WrestleMania for Becky and Bianca, I think. Because here it's clear, like, okay, Bianca is the threat for Becky. Becky still feels threatened by Bianca. That match after tonight has to happen. Becky versus Bianca. Becky stopping Bianca from getting a title shot tonight means Becky versus Bianca is probably the WrestleMania match, which makes a lot of sense. I'm fine with that. Maybe you make it a triple threat with Rhea Ripley, but maybe you don't. After the match, Becky Lynch came into the ring, went to shake Doudrop's hand after Doudrop had won, but slapped Doudrop in the face instead. Becky went to hit her rock bottom, but Doudrop stopped her and then bounced her kind of roughly through the ropes, and Becky falls out of the ring. And Doudrop stands tall, so Becky's a little intimidated by Doudrop there, but then she's yelling at Doudrop, "You won because I helped you. You won because I helped you." And that's how Raw ended. So that was the final match here, the main event. Doudrop getting the shot at Becky Lynch to go on to the Royal Rumble. Doudrop versus Becky for the Raw Women's title. Alpha Academy new tag team champions. Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley breaking up. I could see them wrestling at the Royal Rumble as well. Let me just run through some of the matches we got going on for the Rumble and some of the participants in that men's Rumble. A few of them announced tonight on Raw. So we already had Angelo Dawkins, Montez Ford, Rey and Dominic Mysterio, and Austin Theory. Johnny Knoxville and Sheamus announced on SmackDown. Tonight on Raw, we had Damian Priest, Big E, and AJ Styles all announced for the Royal Rumble on the men's side. So, what's that? 10 out of 30 announced for the men's side. And on the women's side, 19 of the 30 have been announced. Rhea Ripley, Nikki ASH, Dana Brooke, Carmella, Zelina, Tamina, Shotzi, Natty, Aaliyah, Naomi, Shayna, Charlotte, the Bella Twins, Lita, Michelle McCool, Kelly Kelly, Summer Rae, and Mickie James. 19 out of the 30 of the women's matches, women's Rumble participants announced. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE title. Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Miz and Maurice. Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against Seth freaking Rollins. And Becky Lynch defending the Raw Women's title against Doudrop. The drop of dew. Shout out to AJ. Definitely hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the like button on this video as we've wrapped this sucker up. Wrapping up another episode of Monday Night Raw, another Raw review show. So far, Raw in 2022 has been pretty solid. I cannot argue with what we've been seeing from Raw this year. 2 Raws in the books in 2022. Both have been solid. I'm happy with the direction. And, of course, you're going into the Royal Rumble. Everything means so much more. Everything is heightened. These 3 months, January, February, March, probably the best time to be a WWE fan, right? You're leading into the Rumble, and then you're leading into WrestleMania. This is when the biggest things happen. This is when the WWE pulls out the big guns. This is when they try their hardest. This is good times for the WWE. So, solid episode of Raw tonight. Match of the night, I would probably give to Alpha Academy against RK Bro. The triple threat was kind of rough. The main event triple threat, I wanted to give match of the night, but it just wasn't that good. So, can't do it. AJ Styles and Austin Theory was pretty good, but then Grayson Waller came in and caused a DQ finish, so not great. Omos against the Jobber, come on, that's not match of the night. Seth Freakin over Big E was decent, but I'm going to give it to the tag team title match. Alpha Academy beating RK Bro. I thought that match was solid. Big fan of the Alpha Academy. At one point, Riddle and Gable were trading wrestling holds. They were going back and forth with some real amateur wrestling stuff. And at one point, Riddle reversed a hold that Gable was doing. Gable did something, and Riddle got out from under him with an omoplata, which I thought was really nice and really smart because Riddle, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, going up against an Olympic-level wrestler, how do you get out from under him? You use Jiu-Jitsu to kind of, which is smart, That's real grappling stuff. You're a really good jiu-jitsu guy. You don't want to try and go back and forth with the wrestler. Use your jiu-jitsu to escape. So Riddle goes for the omoplata to escape. Gable grabs the ropes. Omoplata is a shoulder lock. Jimmy Smith, who is the commentator, who used to be the commentator for Bellator. He was their Joe Rogan. Jimmy Smith, who's the lead commentator, the lead play-by-play guy for Raw. Everybody talks about how good Pat McAfee is, and I think Jimmy Smith is the best commentary guy in the WWE right now. Because he called an omoplata. He's like, oh, the omoplata, da-da-da. And I'm like, yep, that's what it was. Yep. And then Corey Graves is like, oh, omo, what? What is that? He's like, omoplata. It's a shoulder lock. How you doing commentary for professional wrestling? You don't know what an omoplata is, Corey Graves. What's going on? How does this guy not know what an omoplata is? Omoplata is like a move you learn on day 1 of jiu-jitsu. Armbar, triangle, omoplata. Transition from back, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Armbar, triangle, omoplata. It's very good. You master that, some good skills. Right, AJ? AJ knows. AJ knows. Right? Day 1, jiu-jitsu, omoplata. How's this guy Corey Graves not know what an omoplata is? Jimmy Smith goes, oh yeah, omoplata to reverse, da-da-da. I'm like, yep. Graves is like, huh? And then I go, well, what do you mean, huh? They let you do commentary for professional wrestling and you don't know what an omoplata shoulder lock is. You don't know what that is. And you're doing commentary for fake grappling on TV. You don't know what a basic omoplata is? This is my problem with professional wrestling today. Too many soft people that don't know anything about actual grappling. This is a plague of professional wrestling. This is why guys like Alpha Academy don't go anywhere. And guys like Corey Graves have jobs for life. Corey Graves doesn't know what an omoplata is. It's like Excalibur a few weeks ago. This guy knows every indie wrestling move in the book. Bryan Danielson applies a heel hook. Excalibur goes, knee bar. I go, yo, that wasn't this. If you know the difference between a heel hook and a knee bar, it's very obvious when somebody applies a heel hook and a knee bar. It's a big difference. One attacks the heel, one attacks the knee. Excalibur is one of these guys who doesn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, but could tell you about the tope con hilos and a da-da-da-da-da and all these moves in Japan and Mexico and all these indie moves with flips and flies and hurricane ranas and moves you could never actually pull off in a fight. Ever. All these guys know is the moves that you could pull off when your opponent is helping you. They don't know the moves that you could pull off whenever you feel like it. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable that Corey Graves didn't know what an omoplata was. And yeah, AJ, didn't Corey Graves say bad things about CM Punk when he lost in MMA? Corey Graves would not do better than CM Punk in MMA. CM Punk would whoop that ass. You know how I know? Because CM Punk is like blue belt in jiu-jitsu. That's enough. You don't have to be a black belt. You don't have to be a kick-ass fighter. If you're a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and you face a guy who doesn't know what an omoplata is, you're probably going to win. If you're roughly the same size, you're definitely going to win. 100%. That's just how things work. And if you don't believe me, try it out. If you don't know what an omoplata is, if you're unfamiliar with an omoplata, go challenge a random jiu-jitsu blue belt that is, roughly your size and see what happens. It's not going to work out for you. Oh, he just got his purple belt? That's good. Yeah, CM Punk would beat up most people. He'd probably beat me up, to be honest. I mean, I think CM Punk would beat me up, and I got no problem saying that. I don't think Corey Graves would, though. Fuck. It's crazy. I mean, he's in shape. He's a pretty big guy. Maybe he would. But, I might catch him in an omoplata and rip his shoulder out while we're at it. He might hurt me, but he might not have a shoulder afterwards, because if he doesn't know that it's coming, he's on top of me and I switch to omoplata, I know that he doesn't know what that is. Crazy. I cannot believe that they have this guy doing commentary and he doesn't know what an omoplata is. It's insane. You should not be allowed to commentate professional wrestling in 2022 if you don't know basic fighting holds. It's supposed to be I know it's a soap opera and it's good guys and bad guys and it's a story and it's storytelling and yeah. But in the ropes, they're pretending to fight. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of guys and women pretending to fight. So if you don't know some of the basic principles of fighting, some of the basic holds, most basic holds of fighting, maybe don't be describing the action that's happening between the ropes, because that is kind of your job too. No, it wasn't an omoplata on Nogueira, AJ. It was a... I think it was an Americana. Not an omoplata. Different. Both attack the shoulder, two different moves. I was there for that one in Toronto. I remember seeing the arm going and realizing, well, that at that point, there was a point, there's a point where your arm can't go anymore. And I saw Frank Mir, continuing to go in that direction and Nogueira not tapping. And I was like, uh-oh, that's going to pop. And it's going to be really ugly when it does, because the arm's going to go in a way that it shouldn't, and everybody's going to be grossed out in a second, and then pop, and I was like, oh, yeah, oh, that was gross. Yeah, I was in Toronto. I think that was an Americana. Maybe a Kimura, but I remember it being like this. Americana is when you're pushing the arm like this. Kimura is when you're pushing the arm like this. Okay? Just so you all know. Americana, I wish I had somebody here. There, I got Hulk Hogan. Brett's got better arms for it. Okay, I'll show you. Americana. Huh? Like this. Over. You're attacking the top. Shoulder. Here. Huh? Kimura. Come. Other side. Other side. Okay? This way. That way. It's hard to do on one of these guys. His arms are too short, brother. All right. When I'm starting to do Kimuras and Americanas on a little Bret Hart friend that I have here, and when these are my only friends because my brother's not here because of the curfew. Curfew. I'm a grown man. They're putting me under curfew. You know it's time to wrap up the show. When I start doing jiu-jitsu holds to my little friends over here, because I got no other friends to do them to by myself in the studio, I think it's time to wrap up. Howard Schneider, you're the Super Chat leader of the night. I can't believe it. You've done it again. Harold, you're a champion. AJ, I mean, you already know you're a champion, my man. I wish AJ was here. I'll be putting Americanas and Kimuras on you, AJ. AJ knows that real Kimura. AJ, of course, is his teacher, Fabio Holanda, the mastermind. That guy is a master of the Kimura, right? That guy's got the best Kimura. I know about Fabio's Kimura. That's serious business. Don't mess around with Fabio Holanda's Kimura. Fabio traps your wrist. Forget about it. Your shoulder's going. What the hell? Siri started talking to me like I was talking to Siri, but I wasn't. I don't even think I have Siri enabled on my phone. I don't know what the hell's going on there. Siri, Hulk Hogan, and Bret Hart. These are my friends. And you guys. And you guys. All right. That's it. I'm done. I'll be back at some point. Fuck. Wednesday. Dynamite in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yeah. And I'll have Johnny North to talk to then. So it'll be fun. And then Thursday, AJ and Freddie and I will be back 8 p.m. Thursday night here on the Ringside Report Network. And we're going to have some UFC to preview. Calvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze. Giga might be getting a title shot. Max Holloway is hurt. Last week I was saying on the show, oh, Holloway Volkanovski again. Like, Volk beat him twice. They're doing a third fight. I wasn't that hyped about it. And then Max gets hurt. Like, the next day, I was like, oh, well. I feel bad for Max. I don't want to see him get hurt. I'm just saying I wasn't too hyped about that fight. I wasn't too hyped about seeing it again. So maybe we'll get a different fight. Maybe we'll get Giga. All right. So we'll talk about that on Thursday. And then I'll be back with Johnny on Friday after SmackDown. And on she goes. Where I stop, nobody knows. That's right, Angelo. You stay warm tonight, guys. It is goddamn cold. It is so cold outside. It's terrible. It's really unpleasant to live in this part of the world right now. In so many ways, it is unpleasant. But the weather does not help. The weather is unpleasant. And other things are unpleasant, you know? All right. Enough with these unpleasantries. I'll be back on Wednesday night after Dynamite. Thanks, everybody. See you later.